I love that.
Were you there?
Well, there was.
I mean, we're not going but it's not bad. But yeah, I remember that.
And I see all your things you've known her a long time. Yeah. We don't have text clients.
That we just wanted to hold off. All that, but now that we know. So working on sports, I internet a little bit, and then just learning caregivers. Oh, yeah. Not really doing much right now, but I am looking for, I really want to learn mental health. Yeah. Yeah, cause I just got my certification, so I'm like state certified. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It's nice to meet you too. I know, me too. I love. Yeah.
Well, I saw it.
Yeah. That's fine.
My wife got the lunch.
Yeah, we ended up starting I'm not really sure what happened. They just said like sorry for the
You're gonna get it done. Oh, sure. Yeah. I went to from science. Robert. But I knew I was afraid of I took advanced like God. Yeah, and I don't know my I'm sure. Deli in the Bronx. Yes.
Lehman's the last Jewish deli in the Bronx.
Yeah.
No. So my mother.
We had a good deli right around the corner. We had a little deli right around the
But my mother was in Florida when she was 95. She brought her on to the Riverdale.
Oh, sure.
That's why I said that we used to.
Well, you know, Riverdale people don't live in the Bronx. They live in Riverdale.
Cause you know.
No, because they can't kind of drip. So I'm gonna walk around and just say life is available.
Okay.
Who are you?
That's right. That's
So how are we going to talk? I had a favorite. I don't know. What are the percentages?
So where are you? I lived there. I used to live here. I was in Vegas now. Yes, exactly. Probably meant to, I'm not a party. But I couldn't tell them. Yeah, 60 bucks. And then, of course, down. But never. All right. Okay, and of course, live the state or house, all of this. Yeah. Actually, I don't know how you tax.
Yeah.
No. I installed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Known her for 60 years. Right. Oh, look at that. Yeah, so was I. I was in description. Yeah.
And actually, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, my wife got it. You know, it's all in my sheet.
I would be more than happy. Yeah, I think this paragraph says, I want to tell me down. Yeah. I don't know, some people are these guns. Sometimes. I love get that out of her shirt drawer. No, she bought one for. Oh, we took all the shirts and Helen, ladies like this. I'm having a quilt, not a quilt, a throw made out of the shirts.
No, I wouldn't. Okay, I remember. Okay, good, thanks.
Oh, that's fine, yeah. Nice, thanks. Yeah, there's another way to hear from. So nice. I hope you're gonna have some. Favorite. This one, today. Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah. Well, and they're all different. Find a place. Find yourself.
What?
Chelsea's. Chelsea and Jake around here. Yeah, Jake around here. Can I get you something else? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just that.
This is so weird.
He goes from that. Get nervous.
Yes, I would.
Can I get you?
Grab it, Doc.
Really good.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm very proud. I'm very proud.
Yeah.
Okay. This is mine.
Yeah.
Great, isn't it? Yeah. Right. 60 years. Almost 60 years ago. 60 years. Yeah, we have. Yeah. The dinosaurs. Yeah. Hi, Chelsea. I was looking for you. Chelsea. I'm Connie, and I'm going to get my name tag.
Thank you, I like your opinion, because that
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Nice. Yes. The last time I saw Judith was at the party in the backyard where you were chicken. She kept saying, how is she?
Oh,
Yeah.
The idea was to be. When I first set up all the, to pick up Jake, so sad. Yeah, that was. I told a lot of travelers, so. Sleep. Thursday. Oh. Yeah, no, Wednesday, and we drove up, I drove up to take. Yeah. Go back. Yeah, but I have just barely. I don't mind the stuff, it's like it's just hard. There's a lady there. Right here. Oh, Marion.
Oh.
Yeah, back then.
Oh.
So how long?
We got him in chat. We set them in chat right now, so they can talk to her about it.
That's great.
Look young.
Thank you.
Good. No, I was
All very young. I'm terrified.
Well, right now, we're still at the house and, This was a great idea.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Hey, Say, well, yeah. Yeah. Everything. When you get out, because she's down.
Well, depending on how it's looking to go. Now there's 61, then you get a 9. If it's all right, then you have to take 2 hours. But here's, 10.
You know, you're all, you have 2 days. One's
Oh, she said, yeah, he says.
oh, actress there.
And then where's Judith?
People will say, but that joke about
Oh, and you guys are doing the final test. Oh, I It's a little bear.
what's one? And, I think would you like me to know what that happened? Would you like me to give me Well, the other one here, Iris. Oh. The dots. Turns out they were having myself. No, that's this. Yeah, for the ship.
We're a lot more quiet when we don't have the microphone channeling the conferencing.
Oh, and here we are. You and me.
Oh, here we are. Yeah, if the camera shows it, I can't remember. It's too late.
Yeah.
So like into that box.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like, they,
So that's their other child friend. Right there, Jackie, but she's not looking. And then, yeah.
Camera is there, so wait to the map.
Okay.
They can see.
I want her.
Uh-huh.
Oh, she, wait, oh, she. Oh, she's looking. I think she's sure.
So what is your?
Yeah.
Go way back. We didn't start.
He's walking the Zoom around. If anybody wants to take them.
But.
It was wait to here.
Jake helped you off by getting hold of it.
Yeah.
The lady. Yeah, it's such a big although we
Say hi. They're all responding. And
All right, Robert. Try and get a little attention.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome and thank you all for showing up. How's the level of sound around here? Good? Too much? Too small? So far, so what? Okay, so I want to first of all thank you all for showing up. It's really great to be here in this wonderful celebration. I mean, it's the Festival of Lights, and there's a lot of light we're talking about. It's a whole historical thing where the light is coming back. You know, in the old days, as the sun got lower and lower on the horizon, as we approached winter, there was a kind of fear. You know, what if it keeps going, man? We're screwed. So it was a celebration of the light coming back, and Hanukkah is part of the celebration. Almost all of the holidays around here are celebrating some kind of resurrection, some kind of the light coming back. And here's hoping that the light that we are experiencing through having known Judith and being here celebrating her life is even more light that's going to really open things up and have a ripple effect on the world where it needs a little push and a little more light, as we all know. So I'm really glad you're here. Judith would be very, very pleased we're here. We've got latkes, part of Judith's tradition. It's a little different environment here. You know, I'm used to being at her house where there'd be like hundreds of people, and the smell of grease and latkes pervaded not only the house, but when you went home, your clothing as well. So we're doing the best we can over here now, and it saves us a lot of cleanup. I want to thank everybody that showed up, especially this courageous older woman over here, Joanne. But I don't want to introduce people. I just want to move along. We're here to celebrate Judith, and
Sam's going to introduce some people.
Okay, Suzanne, please. You can come here.
Okay, can people hear me? Great. So when Judith turned 70, she was having a big party like this one. And some of you may remember that party quite well. It was at the Senior Center in Berkeley, South Berkeley. And she asked me to lead this game. So I have revived it for the occasion. And it's a way to very quickly just see sort of, we've got our name tags with stickers, but we might not have such a sense of how we all know Judith and then are connected with each other. So I'm going to read, I think it's 4 sets of questions, and 5. And back in the old days, we were all standing in a circle and we would step into the circle. But today, we're not standing in a circle. What we're going to do is we're going to clap when I say what applies to you. And if you want to stand up, that's great too. So that there's like a visual and an auditory, because we want to include the people on Zoom so they can see all of us. And if you want to see them, you can see them. So Zoom people, we would love it if you would also make as much noise as you can from your respective homes as I ask these questions. So the way it goes is I'll ask the one that probably includes the fewest people. They will start responding. And then as I move on to include more and more people, you keep it going until probably all of us will be in the circle. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to start with how far have you traveled to be here? And I'm going to include the people who are on Zoom who may not actually be here, but they're with us in spirit. So if you're 12,000 miles away on Zoom, that counts, okay? So anyone who has traveled more than 5,000 miles to be here virtually, not quite, I think. I don't know, New York, yeah. If you've traveled more than 5,000 miles, including people on Zoom, anybody on Zoom? Okay. Oh, there's one. There's one. Okay, so we got a couple of very long distance participants. And so what you want to do if you're on Zoom is just go like this and keep doing it, because now we're adding anyone who's traveled more than 2,500 miles. Yes. Okay, sorry, but we're not clapping for her. She's going to keep clapping. Anyone who's traveled 400 miles or more. And now I would include LA in that. Jacob. Oh, well, Santa Barbara. 50 miles. Has anybody come 50 miles? Okay, keep your hands up. 20 miles. More. 10 miles. Anybody from 1 mile away? Okay, that's all of us. So we've come a long way to be here because we love Judith. I know, I'm only on the first question. Okay. Anyone who has known Judith for 79 years or more.
I don't know when I first met her. I think I have, maybe.
Or close. Okay. Anyone who has known her for 50 years or more. All right. Woo, we got some long friendships and family members here. Anyone who's known her since before she married. Anyone know Judith as a single woman? Before the California Blind School moved to Fremont. Okay, we're adding people. Before Jacob.
Yep.
After Jacob. Okay, 20 years. And I'm one of them. 1 year. Who just met her in the last year? And if you've never met her, but you really wish you had, now's your chance. Okay, next question. Thank you. Now we can all relax for a moment. Where did you first meet Judith? Anyone who first met her outside of the United States? Does that include? There's one. Anybody else? A couple. Okay. Now the next one is Hawaii. Oh, we got the. Okay, yeah, clap so we can hear you. Anyone who knows her from New York City? All right, now we got the family chiming in. From anywhere outside the Bay Area? Mostly not. From in the Bay Area? Okay. Now this one, and Judith helped form these questions, by the way. This is regarding staying at her house. She thought this was very relevant to people. Anyone who has been a housemate of Judith? Paul, come on. Caroline? Yeah. Okay. Anyone who has stayed more than a week at her place? Okay. And just keep it going, keep it going. We're going to build. Anyone who has spent the night at her place? Just one. Okay. Anyone who's eaten at her home?
Oh, we have.
Just about everyone. And if anybody's not included, if you ate food that she cooked somewhere else, that's okay. All right. All right. So here's the last question or set of connections with her. Anyone, sorry, who is related by blood or through Buck? All right. Keep it clapping. Anyone who's ever lived in her neighborhood? Here or somewhere else? Anyone who worked with Judith at camp? Any camp folks? Anyone who was in the Peace Corps with her? We know they. Anyone who is a tax client of hers? Oh, quite a few. Wow. Okay. Anybody who worked at California School for the Blind? Is connected through Jacob. That'd be me. Is connected through the disability rights movement. Is connected through a friend or relative. And anyone who loves Judith to pieces.
Up to him.
All right. So we all have a lot in common. I turn it back to the MC. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's cute.
Well, we all have big connections with Judith, and I feel like the connections continue, you know. So we're all very much better people for our time we spent with Judith. So I think it's time we're gonna talk about some memories. Jacob, would you like to address the crowd here?
Substitute my picture. Okay. Thank you all for coming. This is wonderful. Mabudim Javdid. One of the things she always did, I'm so appreciative of as a disabled person is she never let anybody in the house who looked at me different. If you belittled me or treated me like a child, she would take you aside, give you one chance to shape up. If you couldn't shape up, you were out now. And I really appreciate being among friends. I just want to say one quick story that encapsulated my mom for me. Oakland for many years had a festival and Great Merit, and one year decided on two sides of the lake, and you needed a boat to go over to the other side. Well, no one told us before that the boat would cost $1.50. So we got to the booth. There was a big crowd, and there was a sign that said $1.50. And my mom said, "This is unjustified," and began screaming at the people on who ran the boat. And then she started crowd work. You who the boat was free, and everyone said yes. Who wanted a free boat? But most people said yes, and a couple people just got on anyway and paid the money, and I was 12 years old, and I'm like, Mama, I'm with my friend. This is embarrassing. She said, "You can't let these people win." And she kept screaming at them for 45 minutes. And you didn't hold on the booth and all these other people for free, and that was my mom. She never took shit from anyone, and damn if you were her friend and she heard you taking shit from anyone, she would rip your head off and she would explain to you. I can remember one time my mom got so passionate about the rhythm that she's reading a story about Trump in the New York Times, and she broke a blood vessel in her eye because she got so pissed off that she literally broke a blood vessel in her eye. Anyway, I could go on and on, but I love my mom for pushing me and getting me into this new age non-profit work, which for some reason I can't stop loving, and I wish you a great night, and thank you for coming.
You know, the expression is, man, when she was born, they broke the mold. But they broke the mold when Judith was born, when there's nobody like her. And so what we're going to have now is Joanna's going to lead us through a slideshow.
Okay, Jim, you gonna run the slideshow for us?
That was wonderful, Jacob. I'm hysterical. I put together a slideshow. Many of you know Judith from her later years. Robert and I are one of the few people around. Tommy Amiano couldn't be here tonight. There are some people on Zoom. My cousin Eric, who's there, has known her for a long time. But I thought you'd like to see what she looked like. And I remember her as being so shy that we couldn't go. See, that's how far back I go. We could not go to a restaurant because she didn't want to deal with a waiter hanging over her shoulder. She didn't want to talk to the waiter. So we used to go to the automat so she could just put her nickels in and take out the food. So she came a long way from when she was little. And if Jim's going to be able to run it, because we practiced, he lost it. Oh, here it comes. Hold on. From the beginning? You know, I don't know, but I had a few words for Fair. So while Jim's getting that ready, Jim, you got it. Are you ready? Okay. That's our grandpa's. That's Grandpa Lesner. Fun. Technology, a wonderful thing. Oh, take that thing off. Not yet. Yeah, please, if you can, without making it crazy. She was such a cute little thing with her blonde hair. She really was adorable. One more back. Back one more. Another one. One more. Keep going. That's it. That's the beginning. I think. No, there's one before that, but that's close enough. Okay. So we're having a little technical difficulty. That's cousin Gerald. That's Robert's brother with my sister. And that's Paula Rosenberg, Karen Rosenberg's sister with my dad and my sister. You can do them manually if you want. This was early. She went to elementary school in an all-black neighborhood. We lived in Brooklyn. She was the only white kid in the class. And then she moved to the Bronx, and she was the only, there was no black kids in the class. They were all white. This is probably junior high school age. This is graduation from junior high. She had long ponytail most of her life. That was elementary school, junior high graduation. Went to high school. That was her all dressed up on the far right. That was their prom, I think, senior prom. I don't know if you really see her yet. She was getting ready to go to the Philippines. And she was all dressed up that night smoking a cigarette. And she spent 3 years in the Philippines and adopted several families from that time. That's the motley crew. That's cousin Robert over on the right. This is cousin Eric, his dad. There's Jake when he was younger. God, we were all young. Oh. This is the wedding day. She called my mother and she said, I just have something to tell you. I just got married. And my father said, send out announcements. My mother said, I'll send out announcements so you can get some gifts. My father said, wait 6 months. That's Jake in utero. That's when he was a baby. We almost lost both of them when she gave birth, but she managed to hold on to them. We used to call that, the one on the right, we used to call that the field trip from the home. She was so proud of him. This is my family. That's my late husband on the left. That's Judith and Jacob on the right. We were celebrating Christmas with crackers. This was when we sprinkled my mom's ashes. We went looking for an urn. We tried a Florida lunchbox, but she didn't fit. This is this crew on the left. Those are some of the people she adopted from the Philippines. The Filipinos would recognize them. This was when we had a garden party in honor of Buck. That was, then we went to Solvang. I think that was where that picture took place. And that's the wedding. Nothing made her happier, I must say. This was the party we had the week before she passed away, her friend Lee Parker. That's Caroline and Judith awaiting the birth of Moses, who was here. I think he's hiding someplace. And that's the last picture that was taken of her in her crazy kitchen, where she hung up all the pictures of everything all the garbage she got in the mail, she hung on the wall. Okay, you can just let that run, Jim. I just want to take a few minutes. My sister was my mentor. She was my therapist. She was my best friend. And I worked on the slideshow and I wanted to put music to it, but I didn't know how to do that. So I thought, however, what would be the appropriate music to put to the slideshow? So I'm not going to sing. You're very lucky people. I'm not going to sing. But I did want to share the lyrics with you. Most of you must remember Helen Reddy sang a song called I Am Woman. Became kind of an anthem for the women's movement. No one took that movement more to heart than Judith. She was an early advocate for the right to abortion, for women in power positions, for including women in his story, and for changing the way we speak to and about women. She was one of the first women I knew who kept her pre-marriage name. I started using Ms. It was the best I could do. As an activist, her letter writing was prolific. Her attendance at marches and her raising her son to respect and use protest for political action. When Jake was young, he had a visual mobility teacher who took him out, maybe he was in 3rd grade, and she took him out to walk and practice walking on the sidewalk. And she said, the sidewalk ends, Jacob, we have to cross the street because we don't walk in the gutter. We don't walk in the street, we walk on the sidewalk. And he said, you don't walk in the street, you must miss a lot of marches. Helen Reddy said, you can bend but never break me, because it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not a novice any longer, because you've deepened the conviction in my soul. Judith knew the fight was not over and has left it to us to continue. The second song I thought about was What I Did for Love from a chorus line. The song is Look, My Eyes Are Dry, the gifts are ours to borrow. It's as if we always knew, and I won't forget what I did for love. Gone, love is never gone. As we travel on, love's what we'll remember. No one shared more love than Judith. Her love for her son, her family, her friends that go back to junior high, college, Camp Jeanette, Peace Corps, her family in the Philippines, the blind community, the blind school, and all her past roommates. It was hard to lose Judith's love. She allowed for mistakes, being crazy, losing your temper, and being under the influence. There were very few people who were not welcome in Judith's home. You could stay for a meal or 10 years. Her basement was where people stayed, and in her home were accepted. There was a homeless man who knocked on her door one day to ask for money, and she explained to him that she didn't just give out money, but if he brought her newspaper up the front steps every day, she would pay him every Friday. And so a deal was worked out that usually included some food and toiletries in the bargain. In the Jewish religion, food is how you show love. Many here have sat around the kitchen table for a meal. Leftovers went home with everyone. Her way of saying thank you for a favor was to make a cheesecake or muffins to take home. Latkes tonight are in honor of that love. Finally, the other song, the same show, was One. One singular sensation, every little step she took. One thrilling combination, every move that she made. One smile and suddenly nobody else would do. You'd know you'd never be lonely with you know who. Judith was a force to be reckoned with by everyone. Her letters to the editors of local papers were legendary. Her fight for the rights of people with disabilities was continuous, and her fight for women's rights had only just begun again. No fight was too big or too small. She saw an ad in the paper in a catalog for blouses beginning at $17.99, and she called up to order one, and there were none in the catalog that were less than $18.99. There was not a single blouse for $17.99. So she called up the company and she said, it says $17.99 and up. I can't find one for $17.99. Well, that's just the way it was worded, ma'am. She said, no, it says $17.99 and up. And she tracked these people for almost 3 days. And she finally got a hold of a supervisor. And the supervisor said, ma'am, you can have it for $17.99. And she said, thank you very much. I'd like 2. More than that, Judith taught her son and many of us how to stand up for what is right. She taught us to recognize injustice, micro or macro transgressions. She taught us to hold our heads up high and face life head on. She taught us to understand that not all of us are perfect, but we try. She taught us to be sometimes outrageous queenagers, to make no assumptions. She taught us to value integrity, honesty, and guts. The song concludes with one moment in her presence, and you can forget the rest. For the woman was second best to none, son. Ooh, sigh, give me your attention. She was the one, and she'll be missed. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. That was great. Yeah, I just want to add to that Judith had a standard of fairness for everybody, and it didn't matter if you were her closest friend or her son or her anything. If you messed up, she would tell you. And I remember when she was really she was a devoted member of KPFA and was into all their lefty politics. It was very, very good. But when they would do things and they'd talk about all these people they didn't want to leave out from all the alphabet soup that we have about, every possible people who could be ignored as a minority, she would bust them. Why don't you guys put people with disabilities on those lists? And she was dissatisfied with their answer. And after being a really, really long subscriber, canceled her subscription the next day. So she knew what was fair and she knew what was right, and she pursued it till the very end of her days. And we all know this. I don't have to say this, but we're all better people for it. So I would like to now invite people from here who would like to say something. We're going to keep it to 2 minutes or less, please, because we could all talk all day and all night about Judith and how much she has meant to us. But if you would like to come up and say something, please come up and do so. And Zoom, after we finish this, we're going to invite the Zoom people to do it too. We're going to start with people who are now here in this room.
I'm Ann Jealous. I was Ann Todd when I was in the Philippines, and when I met Judith, I met her in Peace Corps training 60 years ago. And this morning, when I was getting ready to come here, I put on my Rosie the Riveter socks, which Judith gave me, and which I thought were just perfect for Judith. I want to read to you something that she posted on Facebook, and that impressed me so much, and I thought I might want to use this someday in a women's group or something. So I printed it out and I brought it. I want to read it to you. Her words. Have been thinking a lot lately about my transition from woman to old woman. Now that I'm stooped over and using a cane, it is clear that the reaction of the general public has changed towards me. In some ways, it has made life easier. Folks hold doors for me, get out of my way, offer to help with suitcases and parcels, which is all well and good. However, I see a certain discounting in the way that they look at me. I imagine them saying, poor old dear, she hasn't had much of a life. They instinctively know that I don't tweet, listen to podcasts, use Bluetooth, etc., and therefore don't understand what life is like. I want to tell them that I was in the Peace Corps when it was a new and somewhat progressive thing to do. I want to tell them that I traveled through India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Turkey on my own. I want them to know that I met a Pakistani woman on a train, and despite our lack of a common language, she invited me home with her, and I went and stayed for 3 days. I want them to know that I was bombed in Vietnam and again in Israel. I want them to know that I have a minor reputation as a hellraiser in the disability community. I want them to know that I have been in a movie and on television, that I am the founder of the only Braille fortune cookie company in the world. I want them to know that I organize and feed 100 plus people at least 3 times a year. What I want is to have badges to wear, like in the Girl Scouts. I could have a traveler badge, an innovator badge with a fortune cookie on it. I could have a survivor badge for the years I lived without electricity or running water. I could have a food serving badge, and then they would know at least a little about my life. I hate being discounted. There, I said it. I feel better already. I would love to know what badges other folks have. Thank you for listening to her.
Can you come up?
Those who were in,
Use the mic, sweetie, so we can
those who were in Group 10 Philippines back starting in 1963 will remember that 10 years ago, Connie and Judith organized a reunion, a 50th year reunion of when in September of 1963, we arrived in the Philippines. After that, Judith began and continued until a week before she died, gathering information from group members and posting it on email. So I learned about Anne's husband foray into politics, for example, and many other things, many other good things, and occasionally a sad thing when somebody would pass away. And that's why I came here tonight, because I felt so grateful for her doing that all of these years. Thank you.
Can you come on?
Hi, I'm Stuart Wittenstein, and I was superintendent at California School for the Blind. I worked with Judith for many years there. And actually, when I first got there in 1996, brand new superintendent, she was on our administrative team supervising the residential program. And she had a wicked sense of humor. We learned very quickly, but her decision-making was always child-centered. It was always what's best for the kids. Sometimes rubbed the staff the wrong way because she made the kids the priority. And but I, as a brand new superintendent, I was kind of feeling my way around and not really sure how things were going to go. And we had a discussion that was, and I can't remember what it was about now, but it was a very important topic at the time. And I thought I turned to Judith during a break and I said, you know, I'm going to have more than one vote on this thing. And she turned to me and she said, don't you get it? You get all the votes. So I learned about being a superintendent from Judith, I guess, too. She also started and gave the idea for us for a couple of very important programs. You've heard about the Braille Fortune Cookie Company. I don't want to get into that in a little bit more detail. But first, she gave us Jake for a while as a short-term placement at our school, which gave us the idea that there were a lot of kids out there who needed short-term placements in our school to get the blindness skills that we could teach that they couldn't get necessarily in the school districts, but they didn't want to spend their whole school career at CSB. And so we started bringing kids in for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months sometimes. And it was a great start because she trusted us to teach Jacob. One of the things I'm going to miss most, Jacob, maybe you can help me out, is your mom always sent me your writing. And he's a great writer. She was so proud of him. And I was so pleased to read it. And I miss those. So Jacob, maybe you could send me some emails with your blogs. But she was so proud of Jacob for sure. Since retirement, we both have retired. We worked on Blind Babies Foundation's program advisory committee, and we learned together as a group, and Julie there too, that that the new administration at Blind Babies Foundation was not going to fulfill the mission the way we thought it should be fulfilled. And we argued with them, and we begged them, and we yelled at them, and they wouldn't budge. And they wouldn't let us go. We said, let us go. The staff is miserable. The families aren't getting what they need. Let us go. We'll find some other way to deal with this. And they wouldn't do it. So we went behind their backs to the lighthouse, and they offered a program which we now call Little Learners. We're very proud of it, and I think almost all the staff moved to this program because they could be effective with the kids and the families in ways that they couldn't have been under the old administration. So even after retirement, Judith was there slugging away and advocating. And the other administration said all kinds of nasty things about us. And I'm sure you can, if you want to look it up, you can read nasty things they say about me too. But we're very proud of the fact that we moved to this new model. And the staff, the morale of staff was so awful, and now they're thriving. The kids are thriving. We're so pleased with that. But let me tell you about Lucky Touch Braille Fortune Cookie Company, because that was amazing. I know. I'm sorry, I'm taking too much time. Yes. Judith came up with this idea because she and the staff were taking kids out to for dinner, and they had to read the fortune cookies to the kids. And they said there ought to be a way we could get them Braille fortune cookies. So she worked with a fortune cookie factory and made it happen. But she insisted this has to be a student-run business. So the students became the board of directors. The students got paid to Braille, which was a treat for them. They made the marketing decisions, the pricing decisions. They had to figure out how much should we charge so we don't lose money on these things. They had to really figure out how to do a business. So it not only promoted Braille, but it empowered the students. It got an award from the American Printing House for the Blind in Louisville, Kentucky for creative use of Braille. And Judith got to go to Louisville and pick up the award, which was terrific. And I'll tell you one story and then I'll get off. We got a Braille letter, a letter in Braille from a blind teacher in Rhode Island. And she had ordered custom-made Braille fortune cookies from us because we did custom-made fortune cookies. And she had done it because she had a second grader who was blind and was mainstream in a class. And she wanted them to share the Braille with everybody. And she said the coolest thing was that all of the sighted kids had to go to the blind kid to get them to read the fortunes. And it made them think about accessibility a little bit too, and to learn about Braille. So it was a very moving letter. We really enjoyed it, but it just shows you the impact that she could have by coming up with this idea. So I miss Judith. I miss her funny emails. I miss hanging out with her. But I will tell you that it was wonderful that I got to know her and got to work with her. Thank you.
Anyone else? We're going to get the Zoom people to talk, but first I'm going to tell just a really brief one. My son is disabled, and Judith invited us to lunch at her house every once a month. And she never cared, we would work out the date, but she always made sure that I asked my son, Jesse, if the date was okay. He always said yes. And she said he could have anything he wanted, and he always wanted the same thing. It was always spaghetti and meatballs with pumpkin pie and ice cream for dessert. So after a while, I said to her, I feel really stupid asking him because I know he's going to say yes, and I know what he wants. And she said, yes, but this gives him agency. This gives him a choice because he's in a really good boarding care in Berkeley. It's a great place run by the city of Berkeley, and they feed him really well and they treat him really well, but they don't ask him what he wants to eat. So I said to my son, I said, Jesse, I feel really stupid, but we want you to know that you could change this. And he said, no, I'm fine. But it was just an eye opener for me that she was so aware of how he might perceive what's going on. And so I was really grateful. It affected me really strongly. So now we're going to invite yes, Caroline's got something to say.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline. I was housemates with Judith right up until the day that she died. And she became a very, very dear friend, family, I would say. And now her family is some of my own chosen family, and I love all of you very much. But I just want to, I've just been sitting back there just crying the whole time because I just miss my friend. But just share that Judith was Judith, like right up until the minute that she died. She was Judith. I mean, I was there when the ambulance came to pick her up, and one of the ambulance people that was helping her was calling her dear and Dolly, and she could barely breathe, but she just stopped and said, I need you to know that this is really condescending and you cannot speak to me this way. And I was like, she could barely get her breath, but she made sure to stop and tell him that this was not okay. And then even when she was in the hospital, she kept looking at me and saying, I feel like this is a dress rehearsal. I feel like this is me getting to do exactly what I want to do. And she kept saying, if I'm not here to write about this, you have to write about this for me because this is just such a surreal experience. And it was just such an honor to be there and to witness that and to see her. And I'll never forget the moment that Jacob found out that she was getting close to dying, and the moment that they shared together, and it was such an honor to witness that. And she just looked at him and she said, the second 40 years of my life were the best years of my life, and you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. And she said it so clearly. And I know that she meant that. And she was so present to say that, even though again, she could barely get her breath. But she was so Judith all the way into the end. And her friends and her community were her whole world. And I know that every single one of us meant so much to her. And even though she couldn't speak that much, she was texting me saying, I want my memorial to be a party. I want there to be stories and laughter. I want everyone to get ducks. So don't forget to take a duck. And Judith, we love you. We love you so much. And thank you all for being.
Thank you. Yes, there are ducks all around this room. Please take a duck or two. Judith, you've got something to say.
Hi, I'm Judith Hancock. I'm a friend of Judy's. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm Judith Hancock. I'm a friend of Judy's from high school. And well, I don't have a lot to say. I'm not a speaker, I'm a writer, but Judith was the hood for me. She was Bronx Jewish, and I really miss that. But anyway, I was fortunate enough to text with Judith on the morning of the day she died, and I wanted to read you the text. Jackie, who I mentioned, is our friend from high school also. The three of us were pals. Jackie tells me, you are in Kaiser. Can you take phone calls? She replied, dying. I said, fuck. She said, I see you, comfort care. I said, love you. She said, me too, tell Jackie. I said, I did. Jackie is who told me you are in Kaiser. I will miss you, my friend. She said, sad. I said, can you have visitors or talk on the phone? She said, visitors okay using text. I said, okay, let's keep texting. I will be in San Francisco September 10th. Is there anything I can do for you? You have been such a good friend. She said, you too. I said, you are much better. Well, you saw your son married and gave him a 40th birthday send-off. You have done a lot of good in this world. She said, thanks. I said, thank you. I said, are you scared or just sad? She said, calm. I said, regrets? She never answered, and I think that's because she didn't have any. I think Judith taught me how to live, and she taught me how to die. Yeah.
Anybody else want to come up and say something? Otherwise, we're going to turn it over to the Zoom crowd. Will we be able to hear what the Zoom people say? How is this going to work? We're improvising this part of it.
If anybody else wants to say anything on Zoom, you can raise your hand and I'll put you up. Okay. Jackie, why don't you go? Let's see if we can hear you. Okay.
I was the Jackie that Judy Donner just talked about, and a friend of Judith's from high school. Bronx High School of Science, and we were friends forever. And I don't stop being her friend now. I visited with her when she was in Israel, coming home from the Peace Corps. And I was there for 5 months, and we did a lot of things. And we visited throughout our lives in either the dreaded Texas where I live or in California and San Francisco when she lived there, and Oakland close to Berkeley, and in her final house. There is only one Judy. They broke the mold. She was a fighter, and she stood up for what she believed, and she made an impression on everyone she met, and she is my everlasting friend. Thank you.
Who else did Joan?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's go with Joan here, and then you guys can help me.
Joan is, she knows from the Peace Corps.
Yeah. Hi, Jackie. Hi. My name is Joan Canterbury, but when Judith and I met in June of 1963, my last name was Lally and hers was Lesner. And so in all of its wisdom, the American government placed us together as roommates, alphabetically organized in Peace Corps training. She is a Bronx Jew, I was a Boston Catholic, and we immediately hit it off. And we used to talk about how is it that we got along so well when we were so different and came from such different cultures. And years ago, I found this quote from Edith Wharton that spoke to me about our relationship. She said, "The real marriage of two minds is for any two people to possess a sense of humor or irony pitched in exactly the same key." And that was what we had right from the get-go. We always laughed at the same things. We always found the same things funny or amusing. And we were in training together, and then we went to the Philippines together. We spent 2 years there in different assignments, and then we extended together mostly through Judith's interest in extending and talking me into doing it. She was always an idea person and an instigator. She wasn't ready to go home, and she kept finding us jobs we could do. So we stayed, and eventually I came home. She stayed in Vietnam, but we stayed in touch all our lives, and she visited me frequently, and I visited her 4 or 5 times over the years. We were always close friends and confidants, and it has occurred to me since her death that one may have a lot of friends in one's life, but not all of them are confidants. And she really was a wise woman and a good giver of advice. We've all talked about her conviction and how she was absolutely the epitome of having the courage of her convictions, as we all know. She also shared with me that in the Jewish custom, when a person dies, people say, "May her memory be a blessing." And I use that now myself because it's such a beautiful thing to say. But I think that for all of us here and many other people around the world, Judith's life was a blessing to us. And I feel sure that her memory will continue to inspire and encourage us and bless us for as long as we are here.
If you want to.
Robert, where do I go? Adrian, you good?
Sure.
We'll get them all.
So I know Judith through her son Jacob. I work with Jacob at KPFA Radio, where we produce a disability program called Pushing Limits. And now Chelsea is part of our group as well. So I've worked with Jacob off and on for 10 years. And I came to know Judith mostly through emails when one or the other of us just couldn't help saying how amazing something Jacob had done was. His brilliance, creativity, hard work. Always, we were Mutual Admiration Society for Jacob. But the reason I first met her, and really that she came to my attention, was that early on I wrote a letter to people that were sort of involved in the program, asking them to give money to KPFA. And because, you know, they have a regular fund drive. And I was talking about our program and, you know, how you do. And I got back from Judith that like this was one of the best fundraising letters she'd ever seen. And I was so touched that anyone would take the time to tell you how good a fundraising letter was, that I realized Judith was something special. And I'm only sorry that she's gone now and she's left my life. But yeah, she made a mark right away. Thank you.
Where am I? Oops. Ugh. You're on mute there. Dang. I don't think so. Can you unmute yourself? There you go.
You mean me, not Karen? Do you want Karen to speak first? Karen had her hand up too.
That's fine. You go, I'll go after you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm Eric Sobel. I am Judith's cousin, as well as Joanne's cousin and Robert's cousin. And I think other than the two of them, I've known Judith. I knew Judith longer than anyone else pretty much here today, even the high school people. Now, you know how Judith carried with her to the end her childhood. You must have gotten all the emails about the Bronx and the egg cream, etc. I'm lucky enough to have known her then, so I think it's my place here to talk about that part of her life. Of course, from my perspective, that of a cousin 11 years her junior, for whom she babysat when I was a toddler and spent lots of time with until she left for the Peace Corps when I was 9. I have two stories I want to share. In the first, I'm about 3. Judith is babysitting me in the 5th floor Lesner apartment on the Grand Concourse in the Bronx, while my mother is across the street at a beauty parlor. I am looking out a window facing the concourse. My mother sees me. My mother goes to the beauty parlor payphone to call the Lesner house to express her, I'm assuming, hysteria that I might fall out the window. Judith calls me from another room, and I walk away from the window to her. There are no harsh words, no aura of concern, no worries expressed, no you should have known betters. And so when she followed up with a calm explanation of why I shouldn't go so close to the window, I accepted it without shame or embarrassment. And obviously, I've always remembered it. In this second story, I'm about 5 or 6. The Lesners had just gotten their first car, a 1954 Studebaker with beautiful red leather seats. Judith's mom, Sarah, the driver, my dad, Judith, and I go out in the car to pick up deli food for dinner. At this age, I have an irrational fear of getting lost and never getting back home. A few blocks from our house, the car stalls. And even though it starts right up again, I am concerned that it will stall near the deli, from which I do not know how to walk home. And quite hysterically, I insist that I be taken back home right away before we proceed any farther. Sarah and my dad argue with me that I am being silly, overreacting, please calm down, etc. But Judith quietly gets out of the car, helps me out of the car, takes my hand, and she and I walked back to my house. It was the gentlest of gestures, but it made me feel that my feelings were okay, not to be belittled or scoffed at. These stories capture the spirit of Judith for me, and I hope explain to you the reason for my deep and abiding feelings of love for her that I have carried and will always carry.
Beautiful. Is it my turn? Can I go? So, hi, Joanne. Hi, Jacob. Hi, Chelsea. I'm in Ohio, but with you all in spirit. I also have known Judith for, well, I'm 73. So since in utero, because our parents, Morris and Sarah, and my parents, Eva and Milton Rosenberg, were best friends growing up in the Bronx. In fact, my mom was Sarah's bridesmaid and Sarah was my mom's bridesmaid. So as a little girl, I also remember going to your wonderful house, Joanne, in the Bronx, coming from Hicksville, Utica, New York, and just being blown away with the energy and the community, and people from all over the world were always there. And it was always kind of a party going on, sitting together in that little tiny hallway, breaking bread together. And Judith had a big influence on me. She was, I guess it was before hippies, so she was a bohemian kind of beatnik, but also kind of changing the world and going off to the Peace Corps, but also working in camp, Jeanette. And I had been raised with a strong value of Tikkun Olam, repairing the world. And Judith really exemplified that for me and was really a model for me. And when I was done with college, I somehow hitchhiked and ended up in San Francisco. And of course, like many of you, lived with Judith for a while because she took us all in and introduced me to San Francisco. She lived in Bernal Heights, and I settled there for a while and moved out when I found a co-op house to move into. Judith also really inspired me. Our first son has many profound disabilities, and I always remember Judith being so angry, and she was so right, because there'd be all these rights movements and race and LGBTQ and all the things that we all stand for, systemic racism. And she'd always say the one thing that isn't talked about enough are disability rights. And she was so right. So I will miss you. Joe will stay together, and Jacob and Chelsea, who I haven't met yet, I hope to come out to California at some point. And I love you all, and I really, really miss Judith. May her memory be a blessing in all of our lives.
There's Mary also. Mary, do you want to go? You're on mute. Can you take yourself off mute? There you go.
Okay, here. 8 years ago, my husband took me to California. I went there with a very confusing head, and I left this corner of the world where right now I'm enjoying cooking by the fire and on the real fire. And when I went to California, everything is so changed. Everything is so different. And I feel like, I was telling my husband, I feel like an alien. And then he took us one day to Judith's house. And then I just feel like I've known this person for ages. She just could read everything, and she just like very open heart, very open mind. And I felt like I'm home. And she was asking me, what would you like to eat or drink? And then with a very open mind, that I felt so open to tell her that I used to drink alcohol at home, but now my husband is LDS Church, the Church of Mormon, where they don't have alcohol or coffee. So she said, here. And she brought all type of her drinks, all coffees. And I really, I was really impressed. I was like, wow, this lady. And she told her stories, which I could listen and learn every time she tells the stories. And it's inspired me to. I was the disability activist. I'm a locomotor, I'm a polio affected. But then when I came to America, I have my baby. When I came to America, I felt that I knew nothing. Everything is so changed. But after I met Judith, I felt that I have my own experience. I have my stories. And this lady is just pinching to tell, to talk, to say things. And she is an inspiration. And in California, she's like my mom's home. My two children will always say, when are we going to Grandma Judith? And my daughter, when she died, she said, who will make us brownie? And she said, we have no more grandma in California. And I said, yes, it's okay, she's there with us. And she said, will Uncle Jacob call us for brownie? I said, of course he will. She's 7, 8 years old now, and she have a lot of questions to ask about that. And to say that, when is Grandma Judith coming back? Yes. Anyway, I miss her. And I sometimes wish that she could come to this corner of the world and she will appreciate everything that I have, or I have learned and I've grown. And she is a family, although I knew her so short, but she gives so much inspiration and courage that you keep going. Don't worry, and you're special, or you can do this. She is a person that it's hard to forget and hard to let go. But I'm glad that I met her. Thank you. Sorry, I can't help it. Sorry. Thank you.
Who else?
Well, I want to thank everybody here and on Zoom, and that was so moving. And none of us are wondering, what are they talking about? We know what they're all talking. Everybody's got their own stories, their own incidents, but we all know it's the same feeling from the Judith that we have loved for so long and continue to. We're going to move along now, and we're going to light the Hanukkah candles. Again, we're celebrating the Festival of Lights. And I think most of you know, we light one a day for 8 days. Joanna, you going to help us? Will you? Okay.
Judith would celebrate Hanukkah by saying, well, you know, it's a Jewish holiday. There was a battle. We fought. We won. let's eat. And so the story of Hanukkah is about a battle that was won by the Maccabees and variations on the theme, but there was oil that was needed for the eternal light. And there was only enough of the purified oil to last a day. But by a miracle, it lasted for 8 days, and that's how long it took to purify more of the oil. And so it's the Festival of Light. Tonight is the second night. You light the shamus, the big tall guy, and then you light, why don't you, Robert, you can turn it on. No, screw it in. There you go. And there are 2 blessings that you say, but we're going to do it from where your perspective. You put the candles in from right to left, but you light them left to right. So the prayer says, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah light." And the second one is, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who performed miracles for our forefathers on these days at this time." Happy Hanukkah.
So you have a song?
Do you want to sing or do you want me to have it? Yeah, sing. Okay. Gentlemen, you're gonna have to start us off. It's the 12 days of Hanukkah. You don't want me to sing it out loud. Oh, why? Oh, okay. Robert, if you can carry a tune, just get us started. We're gonna sing this song. This was written by I found a copy in my mother's handwriting of this song.
Do you want to say something?
Judith celebrated Hanukkah, and it's to the tune of 12 days of Christmas, and you just keep repeating the rest of them.
For those on Zoom, this was a song that they found in Judith's things.
Sorry?
I'm just repeating for those on Zoom. If anyone needs a Braille copy, we have them here.
Okay, but I don't know all the words, but on the first day of Hanukkah, my true love gave to me a lemon with a glass of tea. That means a glass of tea. Oh, here's the words. On the second day of Hanukkah, my true love gave to me 2 potato latkes and a lemon with a glass of tea. A glass of tea is a glass of tea. The Jews used to drink it in glasses, and you'd have to stick a spoon in it so the glass wouldn't break when you poured the hot tea into it. So it's a glass of tea. On the third day of Hanukkah, my true love gave to me 3 pieces strudel, 2 potato latkes, and a lemon in a glass of tea. On the fourth day of Hanukkah, my true love gave to me 4 sour pickles, 3 pieces strudel, 2 potato latkes, and a lemon with a glass of tea. On the fifth day of Hanukkah, my true love gave to me 5 cheese blintzes, 4 sour pickles, 3 pieces strudel, 2 potato latkes, and a lemon in a glass of tea. On the 6th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 6 shtickles derma, 5 cheese blintzes, 4 sour pickles, 3 pieces strudel, 2 potato latkes, and a lemon in a glass of tea. On the 7th day of Hanukkah, my true love gave to me 7 hot bialys, 6 shtickles derma, 5 cheese blintzes, 4 sour pickles, 3 pieces strudel, 2 potato latkes, and a lemon in a glass of tea. On the 8th day of Hanukkah, my true love gave to me 8 levels bicarb, 7 hot bialys, 6 shtickles derma, 5 cheese blintzes, 4 sour pickles, 3 pieces strudel, 2 potato latkes, and a lemon with a glass of tea. Thank you. And now, Chelsea, you're going to lead us in a toast. I think we need to fill our glasses before we have. If you'd like to fill your glasses, or there's more, there's
Martinelli's and other things.
We have Martinelli's, we have other things. If you'd like to take 2 minutes and
Right here, plus a beautiful. No, we're not allowed to bring it.
it's on to it. I never knew that one. Yes.
A glass of wine.
Yeah.
Or you want the party?
I'll let you know.
Take it too much. How can I help? How can I help?
So come on inside and we'll toast.
You're good at this, Robert. This MC thing, you know?
You
I know.
Okay, I think we're all in.
Oh.
There's still time to grab a glass, or you can just mime it if you don't have one or don't want anything to drink.
Yeah, I have the toast.
I'll make sure.
Everybody have a toast?
You want to begin? Should I announce?
Yeah, sure.
So let's everybody raise a glass. Chelsea's gonna lead us in a toast.
All right. Thank you everyone for being here. It's such an amazing pleasure to see everyone here tonight, both here in person and on Zoom. I just wanted to speak a few words. I remember the first time I met Judith. I had invited myself over to her house because gosh darn it, I was gonna meet the mother of my new boyfriend. I had just moved to San Francisco, knowing no one, and Jacob and I had only been dating a month and a half. She was so welcoming and asked me about Jake's and I's relationship. And then she could not hide her utter shock when I told her that we had only met in person once. Within 3 trips to see her, I had the realization with all of her persistent questioning that she had already known me more than my own mom. I will forever hold the feeling of home when I go to visit. While I was living in San Francisco, I would go spend a night with Judith here and there, and we would never miss a beat of conversation. Besides Jake, she became my safe space. On one hand, I feel so gypped that I only got a year and a half with her. But on the other hand, I feel so lucky that I had that time with her. She was the mom I never had. My favorite thing that Judith would say is when I would ask her how she was, and she always responded, old. And I love to tease her about that. Again, I'm so pleased to see all of you here, both in person and on Zoom. It is a testament to how far her reach was and how incredible of a person she was. She was the link that brought so many of us together and that might not have been brought together otherwise. Thank you so much for loving Judith, and may she rest in peace. To Judith. L'chaim.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and all these really moving things you all said. And it's just great to be in a room. I mean, I don't know most of you, hadn't met most of you before, but it just feels so close to everybody here. And Judith was the organizing force behind all this. And she just connected all these communities and all these people. And I'm really delighted to see everybody here. I want to thank some people that couldn't be here, and we couldn't have done this without the help of several people. Firstly, I want to make a big, huge thank you to the Lighthouse for the Blind for providing us this wonderful space. And I have some names here that I'm going to read through. Maritza Calderon. Oh, some of you know her. Okay. I'm just going to go through these are, for me, these are names. I know some of them. Susan Quinlan, Julie Burness Pierce, Dottie Bridge, Carolyn Lee, Helen Miller, Denise Caramagno. Did I pronounce that right? All right. Kelly Rideau. And big, big, big thanks to Joanne Lesner Zamet, my dear cousin, Judith's sister, Jacob Lesner Buxton, the man who looked like a CEO in that picture we had on the slide, looked like a CEO of some major corporation, and Chelsea Lester Buxton. Thank you all. Big thanks to everybody here. And I want to let you know that we've got cake. We can't bring the cake in here, but we want to invite you to take a piece of cake and you can come back in. I also want to remind you to please take home ducks. And in the spirit of Judith, we've got lots of leftover food and we ain't gonna leave it here. We've got even things to put it in. We've got tins and things to wrap it in. So just like eating at Judith's house, don't go home empty-handed. You might not be hungry now, but you might be hungry in a few more hours. Thank you very much.
Without some sweets, Yes.
Well, you guessed it, you know. You got
What?
And then I'll send it over to Facebook.
Well, I want you all to know that there are containers out here, so we would love for you folks to take food home. And you don't have to stick it in your pockets because we have containers. And we have lots of food to take home. And like I said earlier, you might not be hungry now, but you might be hungry again in a few hours or certainly by tomorrow. So we've got lots of latkes. They're good with your breakfast eggs tomorrow morning.
No, I spoke to that. And I had it in storage.
Yeah, I got my job. Getting my phone.